Hey, besties, are you ready for the crash out to continue of Blake and Ryan Reynolds? I actually think it's Ryan that's directing the crash out because it's come to my attention and my realization that I don't think Blake is intelligent enough to orchestrate what we are doing right now. And the erraticness and the sporadicness of it and the hostility of it, it reminds me of Ryan. And I was talking to my bestie, Richard Fedek, who is the paparazzo that was falsely accused by them. And I was like, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? This is ridiculous. Anyone else would just walk away. And he just said it was all ego. Like, it's just, this is how he is. He's psychotic. He will not stop. He won't stop until, like, you're destroyed. It's like a fight against a monster, apparently. Okay. Richard is he was put through hell by them. And he's always my go-to if I have questions because of his personal dealings with them. And honestly, what they've been doing to Baldoni is so similar to what they did to Fedek that it's like you can mirror the two situations and you see the patterns, right? The way that they've operated throughout this entire case is to use the docket would appear as PR to smear Baldoni or to get something to the news cycle. So every time something happens that's negative for them, they have to like respond in some ridiculous way. And so last week they filed this sanctions letter, a motion to a Rule 11 sanctions that they filed way back in May. And this was after the Van Zandt stuff got exposed and they were getting like called out in the media for the abusive process through using this sham subpoena and the sham action through a shell company. And so that's when they were like demanding that Wayfair dismiss their lawsuits or withdraw them because they had no grounds for it, no basis. And at the time, Wayfair argued that all they were doing was trying to re-litigate and re-argue their already pending motions to dismiss. And then a month and a half later, Judge Lyman dismisses the lawsuit entirely. And so Ryan is out. Blake's case is done. Leslie's case is done, and New York Times are done. That didn't stop Blake and Ryan from once the summary judgment hit the docket to say that they need, to file an ex parte leave to file motion that says that they have reasonable grounds to state that, you know, Steve Sarowitz and Jen Abel didn't know why they were actually suing and they didn't know the basis for it. And they were trying to say that this is the purpose and this proves that they filed these lawsuits with ill intent. It's like almost like pot, meat, kettle. Anyway, so they attached depositions for Sarowitz and Abel, all under seal. We can't see them. So obviously, Mr. Friedman is going to respond to this because they're asking them for Rule 11 sanctions again. And he says on May 19th and 20th, Lively and Reynolds filed Rule 11 motions arguing that the Wayfair party's first amended complaint lacked factual allegations sufficient to support their claims and were therefore legally unreasonable and factually baseless. At the time the Rule 11 motions were filed, the court had not decided the motion to dismiss, which were based on the same pleading deficiencies cited as grounds for the Rule 11 sanctions. In the opposition, the Wayfarers argued that the Rule 11 is not a proper vehicle to challenge pleading deficiencies and were already pending before the court in the motions to dismiss. The Rule 11 motions were fully briefed by June 10th when they filed their reply briefs on 304 and 312. They are now seeking to supplement their Rule 11 motions with excerpts from depositions of Steve Sarowitz and Abel claiming their testimony demonstrates that the parties' counsel knowledge that their clients would not articulate any basis to assert the challenged claims. The motion for leave to supplement should be denied for several reasons. So they're coming to the table like months later, right? Which is ridiculous. They're trying to, I think, just get PR. I feel like it's kind of like a twofold way. Like it's a crash out because they need to remind, like Ryan needs to have a say. But then also, Wayfair just presented this beautiful summary judgment that says Blake's case is baseless. And so they needed to respond and say, no, yours is baseless. It's kind of like you're out on a playground and the kid is like, no, you are. No, you are. No, you are. Like that's how Ryan Reynolds behaves. So one of their arguments was that there's this safe harbor rule where if you're going to bring Rule 11, you have to give them 21 days to respond to these new claims. And they're trying to claim that these The new claims are the deposition testimonies, which prove that these were baseless and without fact. I don't know if that will really work. The second one is that they're arguing that the depositions are not new evidence because Abel and Sarowitz were deposed on the 26th of September and October 3rd, and she offers no explanation for filing her letter at this juncture. Just days after the Wayfair party's summary judgment motion, her reliance on Sarowitz and Abel's answers to deposition questions about the basis for their legal claims, coupled with the letter's odd timing, reflects an apparent effort to reassert control over the news media cycle. Did he just say that they're trying to use the docket for PR? They said it in a much more cleaned up way than Blake's team does. And then they said, third, whether a client can articulate the basis for their legal claims at a deposition is not the relevant inquiry. They are mistakenly attempt to draw some importance to the fact that Sarowitz and Abel were unable to answer questions at their deposition concerning the allegations in the complaint without relying on insight from their lawyer. But a party is not expected to answer questions at his or her deposition about the factual basis for his or her claims, particularly when, as here, the allegations are based upon counsel's investigation and later discovery rather than the party's personal knowledge. Yeah, and that is kind of a weird thing to ask. I've been in, I think, 4 depositions myself. And I've never been asked questions about, like, why did you do this with your lawyer? Like, why did you file this? Why did you file that? Because in a lawsuit, you hire your lawyers to do the legal work, right? You have to agree that they can do something for the most part, but they will file things and you don't even see it. They will file things that you don't even know about because you're not the lawyer. You don't know the law. Like, I don't know what the law is about the things that I'm being sued for or who I'm suing. It's not my job to figure out what grounds I have or what grounds I don't have. That's the lawyer's job, right? And so they say that Lively herself was unable to articulate the basis of her own claims at deposition. So it makes no sense to suggest the facts in a party's personal knowledge as opposed to facts developed from the public record from the investigations of others and through discovery would be particularly relevant to never mind dispositive of the nature, the challenged conduct. So they basically just say that a party's inability to articulate the basis for a claim at deposition is not sufficient to warrant a summary judgment or for these, sanctions. So, and they use, Lively's own ignorance against her, which is amazing. And then it says, this is the kicker. Sarowitz and Abel's testimony ignores other evidence uncovered in discovery, which demonstrates that, in fact, there was ample evidence to support the defamation claim against Reynolds. A document produced by Lively reflects Reynolds. It's all redacted. And then Reynolds also produced documents in the action pursuant to subpoena, and they show, among other things, and it's a bunch of different exhibits that we have yet to see. They're all under seal, but it's essentially stuff that he was asked to turn over to them. And they're saying this shows that he actually acted with malice and he spread defamatory statements about us and he was defaming us. And they're using the evidence he provided against them. So they're saying, like, you're trying to say that we didn't have a basis for it, but you gave us evidence that you did defame us. And it says the evidence also demonstrates that Reynolds overtly attempted to interfere with Baldoni and Wayfair's relationship with WME. Reynolds, and it's like redacted, on the Wayfair parties. Emanuel has since acknowledged responsibility for firing Baldoni from WME. In short, the Wayfair party's claims against Reynolds were not factually without foundation, but were in truth, supported by Reynolds' own written words. His written words. They have communications, I'm assuming, between him and his agent at WME, maybe text messages with Ari Emanuel. I'm guessing maybe there's communications with people at the studio, Sony, and I want to see what this evidence is. Like, I am dying to see the text messages that Blake has put on that handed over. I'm dying to see Reynolds' text messages because I feel like we have such a one-sided narrative right now of, okay, well, they were doing this. Wayfair was talking about this and they were planting these stories and they were doing this and they were talking to these reporters, but we have yet to see the evidence of what they were doing, Leslie and Ryan and Blake, because they keep putting everything under seal. Like, it's insane the amount they're trying to hide. And I feel like if you truly have nothing to hide, you hide nothing. You know what I mean? Like, if the truth is on your side, you would want to vindicate yourself and show the evidence. You wouldn't hide it. And they reference an article from Deadline from February 14th, okay? Which says that Ari Emanuel on a podcast, he said, "I've known Ryan and Blake for over a decade. They're really incredible people. In Hollywood, they have been incredibly successful. People work with them. They've never had any bad mojo out there or treated people badly." He's lying with a straight face. "They are charitable. We help them with their foundation. They've given tons of money away." Oh, because bad people don't, give away money. He said, "I fired him," proclaimed Emmanuel. "She felt that she was not being protected. She complained, and then these people tried to go after her. They should stop. They're still trying to do it, and they should stop." And then he said, "If what is alleged in her lawsuit, that what happened on social media, is true, just because she complained to the studio that things were unhealthy on the set and that he was director and the man was the producer, and they did to her what is being alleged, they're really bad people. I know Blake. I know Ryan. They're good people." Okay, so admits that he's a ride or die for them. He admits that he had conversations with them about them, and he admits he fired Baldoni as a result. What is asinine about all of those statements is that WME knew all of this the entire time, right? They only let him go because of the PR. That's it. They knew when this was happening, what was happening. They have testimony from a WME agent that talks about the extortion that he felt Blake was doing to gain control. They only dropped him after she filed a lawsuit, not before, when they knew it was happening. And Ari is really rich to like make these comments because Ari's entire agency has been sued for sexual harassment. Ari himself has been sued for sexual harassment. In fact, he had to pay a former employee like millions of dollars. His agency, they were literally like having porn filmed in the office off hours, and women were finding porn on the photocopy machines. The men were making comments about the women's breasts and how much they weighed and had these like gross nicknames for them. Like, Ari is a sexual harasser. So it's very rich for him to then be like, Baldoni is a very bad person. Yeah. Ari, can I find out if you're in the Epstein files? Like, serious. I mean, his brother was the mayor of New York. Not saying that he's involved, by the way. But so they're saying that they have all this evidence of Ryan, in his own words, defaming them. They also have evidence of Maximum Effort taking over marketing and excluding Baldoni from the marketing intentionally. So when Maximum Effort somehow secured some sort of contract with Sony, they decided what the marketing was going to be without consulting Wayfarer at all. And the PR for Justin had to reach out to Sony and the execs at Sony to figure out what was going on. He said, Danny Megan recommended we reach out to you. Danny's an exec at Sony, about the Maximum Effort content capture that's being set up for later this week. We wanted to ask if you have any insight on the creative and what's happening and being filmed. We want to ensure that Justin is able to participate and that he is induced in the marketing efforts where the other cast are being utilized. Is Sony supporting the Maximum Effort creative, and will it be used in the marketing from Sony? We want to make sure that this is an inclusive project with all the talent from the film and not select folks being left out. And that was from Matt Mitchell at Jonesworks. And then Jennifer Abel said, I just want to clarify and get back to you that there might be some confusion. We are not asking at all for Justin to be flown to New York in the same room with Blake or anyone else. We're just asking for him to be able to be incorporated into whatever content is produced. So optically, it isn't evident that he's not included. Why would Maximum Effort have a say in whether or not the director and the owner of the IP is involved in the marketing? So Sony responds, Not that Maximum Effort is doing anything, but she said, our content team is putting together a few pieces for Justin, and they should be sending to you guys for approval on Monday. The digital team is also going to send you a calendar so you can see how our rollout of content and social pieces is planned. I'll let publicity answer the other stuff. And that was from Danielle Misher, who is an executive at Sony. Well, that looks like they had nothing to say about the marketing. It looks like they weren't kept into the loop about the marketing. It looks like Ryan excluded them from the marketing and took over the marketing. Isn't that what they've said the whole time? And isn't the foundation of Blake's case that they changed the marketing in order to make her look bad? No, it was her husband's erratic behavior excluding him from the marketing because he needed to own a film that he had no right to do, and he couldn't handle being around a man that was better looking than him in Justin Baldoni. That's just my opinion. So, naturally, um, because there's so much that's about to be unsealed, Blake's team is having a temper tantrum, and they want until like a month from now. Like a month from now. They want until like December 19th. Their letter reads for continued extension of time for sealing because they claim that they don't have enough time to go through the 180 sealed records, even though not all 180 records have anything to do with them. And the letter is all over the place, right? So they're like, we need an extension of time because there's 180 of these, but not all of them are theirs. Like there's exhibits from Sony Pictures Entertainment, which are a lot. There's stuff from subpoenas from Alex Sachs, who is a producer. There's stuff from Sony from Angie Janetti. There's deposition testimony. Like Blake can only control what Blake produced. She can't control how anyone else responds to anything. And yes, there's 180 documents that are sealed, but less than 100 of them belong to Blake and Ryan. I think maybe 80, 85. So the bulk of them have nothing to do with her. There's a lot of people that are involved in this, and she is panicking about the third parties being noticed. And listen, I don't know how the judge is going to respond, but she's all over the place. And she wants first, she proposes that they get an extension for the sealed documents from November 20th to December 8th. Okay. And then they filed over 275 exhibits, 183 are under seal. She goes on and says they were not served on her until after the summary judgment deadline, blah, 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 to more than 100 sealed exhibits that are documents produced by or otherwise involving Miss Lively. They also filed under seal documents and deposition testimony involving 15 third parties. So she has no standing to bring up claims for third parties. If third parties need extensions, they need to address those directly with the court themselves. She's trying to say that they're violating all kinds of rules, obviously. And she's claiming like they told third parties that we had come to a decision, and that's not true. So initially she comes to the court and she's all like, I just want until December 8th, right? But then at the very end, she's all, well, also though, request that producing parties who may wish to move for continued sealing or redaction of any materials submitted in connection with the motions be permitted to file a single omnibus submission addressing all such requests within 1 week of the motion being fully briefed on or by December 19th. She's trying everything in hell to delay the disclosure of what's on this docket. She is going to the court and asking for extensions from people she doesn't have standing to ask for. And then the emails between them are very erratic. And listen, again, I don't know what Lyman is going to say here, but Blake can only go to the court and make requests for Blake. Wayfarer has said they don't agree with the extension. They agreed to like a 3-day extension. But they noted in the communications with Blake's attorneys that Lyman, when we agreed to the schedule, we did so with the understanding that the sealing documents under Judge Lyman's rules would apply to both sides and that we would face the constraints of those rules in working out with sealing issues. In discussing the schedule, you proposed extending the sealing schedule by a similar extended period of time, and we did not agree because of the public interest in disclosure. So we did not agree because of the public interest in disclosure. So we don't see any reason to renegotiate that issue. So, and they also say like, you don't have any right to come to us about what's happening with third parties. You don't have standing for that. They're reminding them like, listen, the judge has already said that like there's a public interest for disclosure here, and we have to abide by that. The judge has already ruled that there's a public interest of disclosure. We can't just keep hiding things. And then of course Blake's attorneys come back and they're crying about it, and they're like yelling about, you talked to the third parties and I can't believe you said this, and you're agreeing to this and you're agreeing to that, and don't you understand that we have to, respond to your summary judgments, and we have to respond to your motion for the judgment on the pleading, and we have so much to do. And Wayfair points out that Blake lied to them for months and told them that they were going to be doing a summary judgment. Blake's team told them they would be filing their own summary judgment, and then they never did. So they were preparing based upon Blake filing a summary judgment, and she never did. And then they start yelling about the third parties, and they say, please do not speak for third parties as you do not represent them. I'll be interested to see how Wayfair responds to this. The judge really doesn't like having fights about the schedule, and he doesn't like having fights about like housekeeping stuff like this. He gets really aggravated by it. I feel like maybe he'll come in the middle here, but they can't speak for third parties. They can't. They're not their attorneys. Those people need to have their own attorneys come to this court and ask. And by the way, that's WME, that's Sony. These are huge organizations that can afford their own attorneys. They're not wilting lilies here. All right. So she's desperate to keep this hidden, because why else would she want this not to come out now? The news cycle over the holidays is bananas. This is like peak news cycle time. And she doesn't want to be involved in that news cycle time. She knows damn well how last year at this time when she filed her lawsuit, what the news cycle did. And we're in that same cycle now where it's going to ramp up because everyone's online. It's getting cold, hunkering down. This is peak news cycle time. They don't want it now because then everyone's going to be at the holidays. They're going to be talking about it. It's going to be on every show. They're trying to conceal this for the holidays. Yeah. Okay, Blake. Okay. So the crash out continues. What are your thoughts about that? Let me know. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.